Hey guys, this is Mr. Williams, and this is the first practice quiz and quiz that we'll be doing on Friday, August 23rd. I'm going to run through both the practice quiz and the quiz just as I would at any other time throughout the year, and you will also need to keep your eyes peeled for the magic word that I'm going to spell in brown as I run through this quiz. So starting with the practice quiz, our first question, we are being asked if these fractions 8 over 11 and 12 over 17 form a proportion. Now the way we're going to test this is to cross multiply. One diagonal has 8 times 17. The other diagonal has 11 times 12. If you did 17 times 8 or 12 times 11, that is fine. Multiplying, the nice thing about it is that you can multiply numbers in any order and it will still give you the same thing. What we're looking for is whether these two diagonals multiply to give us the same thing. So if I multiply 8 times 17, that is going to give me 136. 11 times 12, however, is going to give me 132. These are not equal. 136 does not equal 132. And remember, that's the test. Those diagonals need to multiply to give us equal things. So the answer to this one is no. Question 2 and question 3, we are simply solving each proportion. Now I'm going to use a couple different methods on these. For number 2, I'm going to use a pattern method. And specifically, I'm going to look at the top row and the bottom row, numerators and denominators. And I'm going to remember that, okay, if I want to go from 28 to 17, I divide by 4. So if that pattern continues, I should be able to divide by 4 on the bottom as well. 16 divided by 4 gives me a value of 4 for that variable. Jumping over to number 3. I can do the same thing, or I can use the fish method, which I will use this problem to demonstrate actually. Remember, your fish starts where the variable is, goes across the fraction, through the diagonal, make your fish head, and come back to the variable. So what I'm doing here is I'm multiplying and then dividing. 2.5 times 8 is 20. And then as we come around through the fish head, we are dividing by 5. 20 divided by 5 gives me an answer of 4. 4 is going to go in for that variable as well. Moving on to the word problems. Number 4, it takes Mr. Williams 10 minutes to grade 7 quizzes. How many quizzes does he grade per minute? So this problem, remember, you are simply setting this up as a proportion. You need 3 numbers, but if you come over to the question of how many quizzes does he grade per minute, that is the number 1. The number 1 is kind of implied there. So if I set up my proportion, then I've got 10 minutes for 7 quizzes, and I'm being asked to find how many quizzes I grade in 1 minute. And the nice thing about a unit rate problem is that it usually boils down to just a simple division. So if I use my fish on this one, I'm going to be doing 1 times 7, which is 7, and then dividing by 10. So 7 divided by 10 is 0.7, or 7/10 of a quiz every minute. Number 5, Camino produced 200,000 clones in 10 years. How many clones do they produce each year? Each is another one of those words where you should think about the number 1. Each year means 1 year. So if I set this problem up, 200,000 clones in 10 years, and we're being asked how many clones. I'm putting my variable next to clones. they produce in 1 year. I will use a pattern for this one just to kind of demonstrate it. We can get from the left fraction to the right fraction across the denominators by dividing by 10. 10 divided by 10 equals 1. So 200,000 divided by 10 will give us our answer of 20,000 clones per year. So that's the practice quiz. Moving on then to the quiz. Every problem in the quiz has one that was just like it in the practice quiz. So in number 1, I'm doing the same thing as I did in number 1 in the practice quiz. I'm going to look at my diagonals, 6 and 14, 7 and 12. If I multiply 6 times 14, I get 84. Then, on the green diagonal, if I multiply 7 times 12, I also get 84. This is what I'm looking for. If my two diagonals give me the same thing, then I know that the two fractions are equal and they form a proportion. So my answer for number 1 on the quiz is yes. Question 2, I will use a pattern to demonstrate how to run through this one. And this time, I'm going to go from denominator to numerator. Remember, we can go left to right, up to down, or in either opposite direction to that, as long as we're staying in the same row or the same fraction. And if I think about 9 and 45, I have to multiply by 5. 9 times 5 is 45. So if I come over to the fraction on the left and I do 3 times 5, that gets me an answer of 15. Moving over to number 3, 10 over 12 is 25 over something. I'll use the fish method for this one. I started at my variable, went across the fraction. I'm doing 25 times 12 divided by 10. 25 times 12 is 300. And then 300 divided by 10 gives me a final answer of 30. Number 4, a chihuahua barks 24 times in 6 seconds. How many times would it bark in 1 second? I realize I forgot to correct the plural of that. It should just be 1 second. So that's my bad. But if we set this up, we have all of our numbers here that we need. This yippy little guy barks 24 times. 24 barks in 6 seconds. And we're asking how many times it would bark in just 1 second. So whether I use the fish method or whether I think about a multiplication or division pattern, in this case I'll use a pattern just so we can see how it leads us to the same thing. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 24 divided by 6 gives an answer of 4. He barks 4 times in 1 second. Number 5, Little Caesars uses 3 buckets of tasteless red paste they insist on calling pizza sauce to make 84 pizzas. How many pizzas can they make per bucket? Once again, the word per implies the number 1. We're going to be learning a lot of things this year that imply the number 1. So if they use 3 buckets for 84 pizzas, we're asking 1 bucket. Come on. 1 bucket will make how many pizzas? Let me go ahead and put my units down. 3 buckets, 84 pizzas. 1 bucket, how many pizzas? Whatever method you choose, I'll do fish on this one. 1 times 84 is 84. 84 divided by 3 gives us 28 pizzas per bucket of sauce. So that is what a typical video is going to look like. You have both the quiz and the practice quiz that will be part of the video. You'll need to watch them both so you can get the word that I spell out over the course of the video, which in this case was the word eggs.